Dejounte reporting that the Hawks are trading Dejounte Murray to the Pelicans for 2 first-round picks in the future, Larry Nance Jr. and Dyson Daniels. Murray's a former All-Star, all-defensive team selection, averaged 22 points per game last season. Big help there for Zion. Last season, Murray had a pair of career highs in points per game and shots made from beyond the arc. He'll spread the floor for the Pelicans, who had only one player with more threes made than Murray last season. That was C.J. McCollum. Big deal for them.
Got breaking news coming into the HQ out of the NBA, where the Hawks are trading Dejounte Murray to the New Orleans Pelicans. That, per multiple reports, in exchange for Murray, Atlanta is going to receive a package that includes 2 first-round picks. Larry Nance Jr. and Dyson Daniels. Dejounte Murray spent the past 2 seasons in Atlanta, averaging 21.5 points and just under 6.5 assists per game. He joins a Pelican squad that was knocked out of the first round of this year's playoffs by the Oklahoma City Thunder. All right, for more on the trade of Dejounte Murray to the Pelicans, we welcome in from CBS Sports and the Beyond the Arc podcast, John Gonzalez. John, look, let's first talk about the Hawks here, because Trae Young and Dejounte Murray, those were 2 guys that I think a lot of people might have expected to hear a name. Why is Murray the first off the board here?
Yeah, this is something that we've all been waiting for since the last trade deadline, right? We thought that Dejounte Murray could have been moved at the trade deadline, and then the season continues, and Trae Young got hurt, and then the Hawks started to play better, and I think a lot of people in Atlanta started to think, well, wait a minute, this experiment hasn't really worked. Maybe we do need to unplug one of them. Now Dejounte Murray is the first domino to fall here. Not surprising. I think the fit is great for the Pelicans, but we don't know, and I don't think that the Atlanta Hawks are done yet. I think that they could also move Trae Young. It might just be detonation time in Atlanta, and probably, Russ, this is overdue because that team was expensive and it hadn't worked. They were a play-in team the last few years, not good enough. They just drafted Zachary Richardson. Now Dejounte Murray is gone. Trae Young could be next. Clint Capella is on the final year of his deal. That's an interesting trade piece. Bogdan Bogdanovic could be on the move as well. This could be a hard reset where they're looking at keeping Jalen Johnson, keeping Zachary Richardson, Onyeka Okongwu, and then just being really bad next year and getting into a really good draft class.
Yeah, and look, as you mentioned, they already had the top pick in this year's draft and 2 more first-round picks coming from the Pelicans for the Dejounte Murray deal. Tell me about why you think Dejounte Murray is such a good fit in New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, they needed to get better, right? You mentioned when we opened up the show here that they got swept out of the first round of the playoffs. And part of that was because they didn't have Zion. Part of that is because Zion hasn't been hugely available. He's had some injury issues, but they needed to get deeper in a Western Conference that is going to be an absolute brutal slog next year. You're looking at 12 teams at a minimum, maybe 13 out of 15 that have designs on making the playoffs. And the Pelicans are one of them. They're really good defensively. They just needed to get better offensively. So he's going to be a really good fit in that pick and roll with Zion. That's going to be very difficult to stop. C.J. McCollum complements him very well because he's a nice sharpshooter. They've got Herb Jones, who's a defensive stopper, first team all defense. Trey Murphy is a really nice, interesting young wing piece. The question then becomes, what happens to Brandon Ingram? There's been a lot of rumors about Brandon Ingram. He wants a new deal, 27 years old, had a down season last year, but he's still a nice young piece that could develop over time and would probably be a lot cheaper. Not probably, will be a lot cheaper than a guy like, say, Paul George, and is on a younger timeline. I think that the Pelicans would like to keep him around, but in the event that they decide they can't because now they're hard capped at the first apron with this trade, he'd be a nice piece for them to move on, and they could get some assets in return and also get cheaper.
Yeah, it looks like the Pelicans, though, they're thinking about the immediate present here. The Hawks, as we started talking about, probably thinking a little bit down the line at this point. If Dejounte Murray's getting 2 first-round picks and 2 players, what's Trae Young fetching in the open market here in trade season, and who might be out there willing to give something up for him?
What's anybody fetching on this market is a great question, Russ, because, look, I thought that this is almost a bargain in the way the market has worked out. When you're giving up 2 picks and Larry Nance and Dyson Daniels for Dejounte Murray, who's an all-star caliber point guard and plays defense, I thought that was like almost a discount compared to what we just saw with Mikal Bridges, who went for 5 first-round picks, 4 of them unprotected, plus a pick swap, which is just like mind-boggling. It was 1 more pick than they got in return for giving up KD to the Phoenix Suns. And then you see a trade earlier last week where Alex Caruso, who made second team all defense and was highly coveted as a 3-and-D player, he gets swapped straight up for Josh Giddey and no picks from an Oklahoma City Thunder team that has a zillion picks. So anyway, to answer your question, nobody knows. Nobody knows what Trae Young would go for because nobody knows what the market is for him. And then everything is so topsy-turvy upside down here in the NBA. I guess it's just like eye of the beholder moving forward.
Yeah, look, this is just the beginning of it all, right? It's only just begun. Dejounte Murray to the Pelicans, that's step one. More to come down the road. John Gonzalez.
Names who could test the market. LeBron James is entering the final year of a 2-year, $99 million extension. James has a chance to play alongside his son Bronny after he was taken in the second round of last night's draft, which would make them the first father-son duo to play in the NBA at the same time. D'Angelo Russell also entering the final year of a 2-year contract with the Lakers. Player option worth just under $19 million. Russell shot a career-high 41.5% on threes last season, but struggled in the postseason. And staying in L.A., Paul George entering the final year of a 4-year, $176 million extension with the Clippers. George played in 74 games last season, his most since joining the Clippers. Shot career highs in field goal percentage and threes. NBA front office insider Bobby Marks with us now. And when you look at PG-13, he has that deadline till tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern time to exercise the player opt-in or opt-out, owed $49 million. Who's in the running for Paul George right now?
Well, Kevin, I think you certainly have to keep an eye on Philadelphia. They are the team that is sitting in the driver's seat with cap space, can certainly create up to $60 million. They would have room still to go out and fill out their roster if they got landed a player like Paul George, 4 years, $212 million. I would certainly think if you're Oklahoma City, you would kind of pique your interest a little bit if you were them to maybe revisit bringing back Paul George. Certainly, it would have to be on a shorter contract here. And then, of course, there's Golden State. If Paul George opts into his contract, certainly makes it interesting if the Warriors can put together a trade package to get Paul George.
Keep an eye on Paul George specifically and what he does production-wise wherever he goes. Averaged at least 20 points per game in 9 straight seasons. Meanwhile, LeBron James has done it in 21 straight years, and he has a decision to make here. Opting in, opting out specifically. What makes sense for LeBron right now, Bobby?
Kevin, opting out, because when he opts out of his contract, he'll be eligible to sign the biggest contract in his career, 3 years, $162 million. That also comes with a no-trade clause. He would be only the second player joining Bradley Beal with a no-trade clause here. But the one guy to keep our eye on here is D'Angelo Russell. And certainly the decision by James will play a big role in the Lakers' offseason. But D'Angelo Russell has a $19 million player option. What Russell does, whether opt-in or become a free agent, will determine what flexibility the Lakers have this offseason to add in free agency or possibly in a trade.
I mean, keep an eye, too, on LeBron James, the first player to average 25 points in a season while being the oldest player in the NBA. And now he gets the opportunity to play with his son, Bronny, taken 55th overall in yesterday's draft. Bobby, thank you so much. More on Bronny, family celebrating a very special night. And, of course, today the news on what number he will wear in purple and gold. That was announced. It is number 9. Mike and Frank with much more in tonight's PTI bonus topic.
All right, Frank, you have any issues with the Lakers drafting Bronny James?
I mean, they could have waited another 15 minutes if nobody drafted him and just signed him, but I understand why they did it. It's the same reason they hired J.J. Redick. They want to keep LeBron happy. LeBron opts in. If LeBron's happy over his next 2 or 3 years, that's going to be a good thing for the Lakers. My only issue with Bronny James, is it the best thing for him? I get the history of it, playing with his dad. It's never happened before in the NBA. I just wonder how some of his teammates are going to receive it. Are they going to look at it as he's getting preferential treatment? If it's good for his development, great. I just wonder how he'll be treated by some of his teammates. And remember this, you're the 55th pick, Mike. You know, a lot of times those guys don't make teams. They don't play a lot. Look at Jalen Hood's Shafino last year, the number 1 overall pick. The guy played a total of 109 minutes. And he was their first-round pick, so I have no idea how much Bronny's going to play this year.
Frank, I don't have issues with the Lakers choosing Bronny. I have issues with our colleagues, many of them my dear friends, who wanted to make it the biggest story since D-Day. we've known the Lakers are going to do this for a long time. They were going to, they manipulated it. It's fine. I don't even have a problem with that. But don't tell me that that's the biggest story. The biggest part of this story, and the part that is just heartwarming, is Bronny James, a year after cardiac arrest, 11 months, coming back and playing and getting ready and going to combines and having workouts and being a professional athlete now. That's tremendous. That's the good news here. And by the way, he's clearly had great parenting. Everybody who knows the kid talks about who he is and how he conducts himself and how he represents himself. And he's in a tough position all his life. And he's still this kid, this wonderful kid. He's got great parenting. So what? It was going to leave if he wasn't right there in the same building in Los Angeles? That great parenting couldn't travel to Denver or Chicago or Brooklyn? Of course it would. So I don't believe that whole side of the story. He's got to be there in the same building with LeBron. No, he doesn't. This kid is ready to go out into the world, more ready than so many millions of other kids who are that age who do it because he was raised right, as my parents used to say. So God bless him. I'm glad he is healthy, at least right now. He came back from something that is life-threatening. That's the only part I care about. All the rest of this, the Griffeys already did the father-son. It's great. LeBron is going to prevent anybody on that end of that bench, Frank, from being upset that Bronny's there. You're going to cross the old man? No, you aren't. But I hear what you're saying. Is it the best thing for him?
Yeah.
Is it the best thing for him? Or might some other situation have been better? I don't know. I'm asking the question. But don't tell me it's the biggest thing since D-Day. The biggest thing is his recovery and his continued health.
Yeah, you're right about that. And I think we've talked a lot about, Caitlin Clark and the X that's on her back. There's going to be a target now. You have the name James on your back in Summer League, regular season.
Yeah.
Hope it works out for him. That's it. We're done. Back to you.